This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
The king of college football talk, hosting on WNSR, Nashville Sports Radio 6 to 9. I get a chance to listen to him every once in a while. I heard this morning Bill made the mistake, guys, of telling his listeners that he doesn't understand people's love of Waffle House. And I don't even remember how the thing came up on the show. The next thing you know, it was an hour of Waffle House on the Bill King Show. I'm sure you didn't plan it that way, Bill, but scattered, smothered, covered, hijacked your show this morning.
Yeah, huge mistake on my part. I didn't start it. It was something, I get a lot of texts and communication, so I don't remember who started it, but I just mentioned a comment off of it, and then it went nuclear. Not good, but nonetheless.
You can always play your own theme music in there. You know, they got the jukebox working. You know, you go in there and
right. I've got a favorite song. There are raisins in my toast. There's a real song in the Waffle House jukebox.
Dust in the Wind by Kansas. Yeah,
that's right. Oh, Bill, Dylan Raiola to Georgia. Did the Nebraska fans really think they had a shot at this? Like, you read the tea leaves, and the tea leaves were Dylan Raiola saying Nebraska is Nebraska. So there was no chance that was happening. And it's just another top quarterback that chooses either between Ohio State or Georgia, and that just seems to be what we hear every year.
Yeah. Now, a while back, after the second national championship in January, the connection that really fired up that whole relationship was Matthew Stafford, who is very good friends with the Raiola family because Dominic was his center for a period up there in Detroit. Very close family, and I think Dominic calls Matthew Stafford uncle or something. Very close, and so that was a really big help for the Georgia connection. Then after that, it might have faded a little bit. Nebraska, being the legacy school, made a good run at him. Matt Rule made a good run at him. Then he was out at South Carolina. At Southern Cal. And they, I think, took the lead briefly. But after that, Georgia took back over. It's been trending for a couple of months that he would end up there. So, and he committed. Now, you still can't sign until December. The 20th is when that period begins, that 72-hour period this year in December. But right now, I think they've secured it.
Oh, is this like a swap for Justin Fields from a few years ago? Are those the two that have kind of gone back between those two schools, or are there other quarterbacks that have gone either from Georgia to Ohio State or vice versa?
Yeah, Fields was at Georgia, played that first year, and played behind Jake Fromm. Obviously, he was the better talent, but they were confident with Jake Fromm, and Justin was just a true freshman and made a good move. Incredible career in his time, couple of years there at Ohio State. And then, Raiola was committed to the Buckeyes a while back and then decommitted. And, that's interesting.
Hey, Bill, we were talking earlier. Now, the kids in the portal and then the kids with the high school that are going on scholarship now, are about a third of them up there, or all of them up there now? Because my time 20 years ago, I think it was about a third of us were up there for summer workouts, but there was a lot of kids that you didn't see until camp started. How has that changed to now? Are they all up there now?
I remember guys early 80s. I'm at Tennessee, and there were two early 80s. And one was a quarterback from California, Long Beach, who was there. But, yeah, it's accelerated. Your point is it accelerated through the year. I'd say everybody is at least 50% or more. Some may be 75, 80% of your class is midterm guys who just want to come in and get to business, right? Let's get it. Let's get into the spring game. Obviously, you get to practice for bowl preparations, too. And that can be beneficial. So I would say, it depends on the school now. There's no broad brush here, but I'd say at least 50 to 75% everywhere.
It's interesting that that's the direction that it's gone in here. I wanted to ask about ACC. The commissioner apparently says that the athletic directors have told him, quote, this coming out like 20 minutes ago, quote, we're all in this together, unquote, says the athletic directors. That's a bunch of bull. That if that was the case, then you wouldn't have half the league trying to be treated differently than the other half of the league. And all I see is, I know people write about the whole grant of rights and everything, but these are leagues that are that are not equal partners. These partners they don't view each other equally. And it's crazy too, because like Florida State and Clemson are the ones that are above North Carolina, Miami, Virginia Tech, and NC State. So it's really a 3 or maybe even 4-tiered league. How much longer does the ACC have to exist?
Well, the grant of rights and that deal, which is ironclad, I mean, they've had every lawyer go through the boilerplate and try and find a needle in a haystack, and they're not finding anything to get out of it. And it goes through 2036. Now, I'm not saying we've got another 13 years here of unhappiness, but they all signed this thing. Now, it was a mistake, and at the time it probably looked like good money. Now it's not, comparatively speaking. The 7 schools apparently met prior, a couple of months ago to talk about it. And that would be Florida State, Miami, Clemson, NC State, North Carolina, Virginia Tech. And there's one theory that maybe if you could get half the league, that's 7 out of 15. If you could get another one to join, maybe you could crash the league. But the problem with that is where you're going to go. None of those other schools have a home to go to right now. Now, I'm not saying a few of them wouldn't be attractive, but if you were so attractive, they would have already gone and gotten you. I mean, the SEC in the late 80s wanted Florida State, and Florida State turned them down. This is before they went Arkansas and South Carolina. Florida State, by Bowden, actually made the call because the future was better in the ACC for them to win, which was at the time the right call. But you'd already be, if Clemson was going to be in the SEC, they'd already be in. Now, guys, I'm not saying it can't happen here in the future, but if you want to crash the league, you've got nowhere to go. Where is North Carolina State going? Where's Wake Forest going?
The American?
Where is Duke going? But guys, but basketball is nothing, okay? Basketball doesn't have a voice in this. Duke's got nowhere to go.
They go to the American Conference, truthfully. I mean, that's where they would belong in that case.
Syracuse, is the Big East not a thing anymore?
No.
They just have the new Big East.
Well, the Northeast.
Not money-wise.
No, they don't have the money. Like Boston College is a school, but they don't. I mean, come on now. No, that's a smaller school, smaller alumni base. That was just a media market.
I thought, is Wake Forest a private school?
Private school,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Small school, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, with this, then, Bill, when you look ahead, like we were talking earlier about how now the hurdle's been cleared so that the players can get name, image, and likeness money from EA Sports for the NCAA football game. That's going to start in 2024. Texas and Oklahoma joined that year. That's the year that USC and UCLA are part of the Big Ten. That's also the year where all these new or a lot of the new TV contracts kick in. First year, the 12-team playoff. That is the new era of college football. I just don't know exactly what to call it, but enjoy 2023 college football because it's the last year that the sport looks the way that it does now.
And we looked it up this morning. If you went back to, let's say, 2007, which is the craziest year ever, if we had a 12-team playoff, how many 2- and 3-loss teams would be in? And there were a couple of years where 5 3-loss teams get in. Now, there was a couple of years where nobody with 3 losses got in. But if you track 2007 through the end of the BCS to the playoff era, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, it's going to look very much different. And that second loss for a lot of those upper echelon teams, or for some of the really high upper echelon teams, if you have a second loss, that doesn't hurt you at all as far as just playoff eligibility.
Just wait until at least half of the college football playoff teams are just coming out of the Big Ten and the SEC. And then eventually it'll be 7 of them. I mean, that's the direction that you're going with this. Money leads to the ability to have better facilities, pay the coaches. You have better facilities, you have better coaches, then you get the better talent.
And you have better alumni.
You can just see the direction that this goes, Bill. Eventually, you're not going to have all dozen in them, but eventually it's at 7 or 8 teams out of those two leagues are playing for the national title.
If there's a $30 million to $40 million deficit between the ACC
annually
and the SEC and Big Ten, and then you multiply that times 10, that's about $400 million over a decade of disparity in media money.
Wow,
that'll be interesting.
Bill, I'm in your neck of the woods. Actually, leaving after the show today to head to Nashville, Arkansas, Vanderbilt this weekend. The Hogs just found out that the guy that was at second base for most of the season is done for the year, but he hadn't played for a couple of weeks, so they've already started to adjust to that. Vanderbilt's a team right now that's having a ton of trouble scoring runs. They scored 11 runs in their last 6 SEC games. So they need their pitchers who are good to be healthy, but that's also an iffy thing for Vanderbilt. And I don't know, it almost feels like, no, Corbin isn't going to stick his head in a hole and just worry about next week, because that's a prideful program. They're 11-1 at their ballpark in SEC games this year too. But the Hogs have an upper hand coming into Vandy this weekend. No doubt.
They're not raking at all comparatively to, let's say, a month ago. Their pitching's pretty good, but Carter Holton is their best pitcher. True's more lefty. He's had one start probably in the last couple of weeks at best, and you're right, they're not hitting the ball. And I think Tennessee got that started against them. That game one was close. Tennessee won at 12, and then absolutely annihilated them in the next 2 games. And since then, they've been limping around, no doubt.
You know, all of us here are not just pulling for Arkansas, but we're rooting for Wake Forest this weekend against Virginia Tech, because everybody here is very well aware of the whole thing of the number 1 seed hasn't won the national title since, I think it's 99. I think it's either 99 or 2000 the last time. So we're all big Wake Forest fans, right? At least for this weekend.
That's a good. I've watched them probably 10 times this year. That's probably the best starting pitching in the country. And they have a good staff. They hit the you-know-what out of the ball, and they're incredibly well coached. They're a huge threat, and they're consistent. They've been the most consistent team all year long. They just lost one. It was Game 3 at Florida State. By the way, guys, Florida State and Clemson, not this year, but with their new coaches, Eric Bakich, who was at Michigan, got them to the championship against Vanderbilt a couple of years ago, Link Jarrett at Notre Dame, who eliminated Tennessee. They're going to be a problem here in a year or two in baseball. They are going to come back and be an issue.
Heck, Clemson might be a problem this year. They're pretty good now, but Bakich knows what it takes, because he helped build Vanderbilt under Corbin. Getting Michigan to the national title series is a humongous achievement in and of itself. And speaking of Vanderbilt and Vanderbilt baseball, you saw about Kumar Rocker, right? He's going to go under the knife and have Tommy John surgery. And man, it just may. You remember when the Mets drafted him and refused to sign him? This must have been what they were worried about, but Kumar Rocker is out for the remainder of the year.
I just saw that today. Yeah, and he's from here, guys, even though they'd moved to Georgia his last couple of years of high school, but he's from here, so I got to see him when he was real young. And his last year at Vanderbilt, something wasn't right. He didn't have that extra bite on his fastball in particular. His other stuff was working, but he did not have, again, that just extra little bite, that little sizzle on the fastball. That's the difference between 94, 97, 98. And remember in that last game, Mississippi State, what did they score on it? 12 runs, 15? I don't remember. They just killed him. And now they said he'd been pitching well up until, these most recent arm problems. Been pitching really well.
BetOnline.ag is your number 1 source for all your basketball info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest player reports for this year's pro basketball playoffs. BetOnline is always your sports information headquarters this season, as we have you covered for all your sports wagering needs. Basketball, MLB, NHL hockey, right down to UFC and boxing. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games you can play right from your home. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BLEAV. BLEAV. Bet Online, where the game starts.